Hey lovelies! So we all know granola is a great way to start the day. Of course, it's really nutritious, it's loaded with fiber, but the store-bought kind can also be loaded with things like additional sugar, which nobody needs in their life. So today I am going to be making some homemade granola recipes that I think you're really going to enjoy. And in true domestic geek fashion, we are doing 3 tasty takes on traditional granola. We're starting off with a little bit of nostalgia. I am making a PB&J granola. How could this possibly be bad? So for this recipe, the first thing we're going to do is actually melt our peanut butter a little bit. I'm using natural peanut butter here. I've got a little saucepan on the stove. It's just over medium heat. I'm also going to add a little bit of coconut oil and some coconut sugar to this. Now, in terms of sweeteners, you always have the option to use some maple syrup, some agave, some honey, or just leave the sweetener out entirely. That's definitely up to you. Once that mixture is heated through and has liquefied a little bit, we can transfer it into our oats. I'm using old-fashioned rolled oats in this recipe. You don't want to use things like instant oats or quick oats. You really want to use the good old-fashioned kind when you're making granola. And we're just going to give this a good toss. You want to make sure everything is evenly coated in that peanut butter mixture. And then I'm going to fold in some peanuts. We're just going to transfer this to a parchment-lined baking sheet. Trust me on this one, parchment is your friend. Nobody needs more dishes in their life. We will just spread it out into an even layer. And just before all of this goodness gets into the oven, we are going to address the J in our PB&J, which of course stands for jam. In this case, I am using some raspberry jam, but you can go ahead and use any jam that is your jam. I'm using sort of a no sugar added version because we already added some coconut sugar to this. And then we are going to get this tastiness into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for between 20 and 25 minutes. When this comes out of the oven, you'll just want to let it cool and then it is ready to be enjoyed. Or if you want to take it a step further, which I just about always do, you can go ahead and add some dried blueberries, which I absolutely love. Then you can either enjoy this right away, say crumbled on a little bit of vanilla yogurt, or you can store it in an airtight container for up to a week. I prefer to store it in my fridge, but room temperature is technically also fine. There you go. Peanut butter, and jelly. Granola. Next, for a real treat, I am making my banana bread inspired granola. Tell me that's not a great way to start your day. We, of course, are starting with our oats in a bowl. To that, we are going to add some nuts. Now, there's a hot debate around here about whether banana bread should have pecans or walnuts in it, so we decided to use both. Then we're going to add a good sprinkling of cinnamon to our bowl and give this all a good mix just to make sure everything is well combined. Now it is time for the wet ingredients. In this case, as our sweetener, we are going to be using some maple syrup, which I love because not only does it add sweetness, it also infuses the granola with some really beautiful maple flavor. To that, I'm going to add some banana. Now, I really would feel like a fraud if my banana bread granola did not involve at least some banana. Next, I'm going to add a little coconut oil and finally a splash of vanilla. I'm going to stir this until it's nicely combined and then lay it out in a single layer on my parchment-lined baking sheet. Now you could bake this just as it is, but I have yet to meet a banana bread that was not made better by some chocolate chips. So on go my chocolate chips and into the oven this mixture goes. Once again, we're going to cook it at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for between 20 and 25 minutes. Once this comes out of the oven, we can finish it off by adding some crushed banana chips. These can either be found in your supermarket or a bulk food store usually will carry them. I like adding them because not only do they have some banana flavor, they also add a good amount of crunch. Needless to say, this stuff is real tasty and will have your whole family going nuts for it. Finally, guys, for something a little bit different, we are going to be mixing up a savory granola that I think you guys will actually really enjoy. Now, obviously, you don't generally eat savory granola as, say, like a cereal with milk, but it is incredibly good when crumbled on some plain Greek yogurt, or you can use it as a nice, crispy, crumbly topping on things like soup or salads. We're starting once again with our rolled oats in our bowl. To that, we are going to add some nuttiness. I've got some crushed almonds and some walnuts and some sunflower seeds. You really want in a recipe like this to use raw nuts as opposed to roasted nuts. That way you don't have to worry about them burning while they're in the oven. Once those are in your bowl, you can start adding some seasoning. I'm going to do that with some garlic powder, some smoked paprika, and some freshly chopped rosemary. You can also use some fresh thyme. That would be really tasty. Or if you wanted to use a blend like an Italian seasoning or a Greek seasoning, all of those would be great options. There's a ton of versatility in this recipe. We're going to mix all of that together so that it's well combined, and then we can add our wet ingredients to our mixture. In this case, I am adding some olive oil, 1 egg white, which is going to help this bind all together and give it a nice shiny finish. And then we'll finish this off with a couple tablespoons of honey. Of course, just a little bit of sweetness is great in any savory recipe like this. We're going to stir this all up and then get it onto our parchment-lined baking sheet. I always like at this point to add a good helping of salt. This is savory granola after all. And then we can get it into the oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for between 20 and 25 minutes. When it comes out of the oven, it is nice and savory and smoky and ready to be enjoyed on all sorts of tastiness. I hope you guys will give all 3 of these granola ideas a try, and if you do, be sure to tweet me, Instagram me, or Snapchat me a photo because I always love seeing your kitchen creations. I have some more great granola recipes on the channel, so if you haven't checked those out yet, I highly recommend you do. I will leave a link in the description box below. And finally, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe because there is lots more deliciousness where this came from.